Hey everybody. My wife thinks that I am in a meeting right now. It's Friday, April 20th. She thinks I'm in a meeting for the rest of the day. But what actually I'm doing is I took the rest of the day off to put something together for our 21st wedding anniversary. I was trying to think of something cool I could do, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of like a video blog, video diary type thing I'm going to put together, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit a bunch of places that have significant meaning for us, and kind of give a little bit of a rundown of why I'm including that location, share a little bit of some fun stories about what took place there. And like I said, my wife thinks I'm in a meeting, so hopefully she will forgive me for the white lies that I told. I did actually have a meeting this morning, so hopefully she'll forgive me for that. I hope she'll enjoy this, and I hope you guys all enjoy it too. So I am walking to my car right now, but then after that I'm gonna pop up in a couple different locations. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Hey, so I'm here at my first stop, and I'm noticing that I didn't shave, and my wife's gonna be upset. She's gonna say that I'm scruffy, so apologies. But I wanted to start by talking a little bit about how we came together. And a lot of times, for those that have known us for years, they pretty much have either heard this story or know parts of it. So as those of you that know, Angelique and I have known each other pretty much our entire lives. So I started going to 44th Street Church when I was about a year old, I think. And Angelique's family had been there for years. Her mom was born in that church. And so I look at it as I've literally not known what life is like without her in my life in some capacity, right? So we've known each other forever, but it was more of a friendship type thing, and until that point, it was probably more of a I'm annoying her. I'm not the most sensitive person. I was not exactly a kind person all the time. So she probably thought I was a jerk. I'm pretty sure she'd tell people that I was a jerk up to that point. Not all the time, but I could be. So we had mutual friends that were getting married, and they wanted everybody to have a choreographed dance. So they were taking lessons at the Fred Astaire Dance Studio on 24th Street in Phoenix. And they wanted the wedding party to also have, to be part of this dance, and it would be a choreographed dance to whatever song it was. I don't even remember what it was. And so Angelique and I had been partnered up since I was a groomsman and she was a bridesmaid. We had been partnered up, and they were having us go and learn the choreography for this dance. It was that was going to be for the wedding. And so we started taking these dance lessons together. And, at first it was no big deal. It was, hey, I was, best friends with her brother. And so it was we were around each other all the time, but it was obviously a different dynamic now that we were dancing together. And, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, we're kind of dancing, and I had always liked Angelique and had a crush on her. And I remember thinking to myself while we're dancing, this is like all business for her, because she's like, she won't look at me. And it was just really weird. It was like, not that I was like wanting her to stare into my eyes all creepily or anything like that, or that I was going to do the same. It was just, it was just, I was like, is there something wrong here? And so, you know, she was just kind of like, she was, you know, the dance instructor was telling her exactly what to do. And she would, you know, look at him, and then, you know, she would either look down or she would look away. And it kind of felt awkward. Well, come to find out, she, you know, later I was bringing that up to her, and she would say, well, you know, I was embarrassed, or I was shy, or whatever. And so it made sense after the fact, but at the time I was just like, man, she's not kidding around. This is just, we're here to do this, and that's all we're here to do. But, you know, we started hanging out together more. You know, she would sometimes come pick me up, if we had a dance class scheduled, and we'd go get something to eat. And so from there, it kind of just, started blossoming into something more than friendship. And so when I thought about doing this video, I wanted to get, I wanted to come to the Fred Astaire studio on 24th Street and kind of just maybe go inside and talk to the folks there. I doubt anybody that's there now worked there at the time, and I don't remember any of their names. I remember Mr. Casillas. That's the only name I remember. But I don't remember anybody else there, and I got to looking it up online, and it's no longer there. It's not located there anymore. However, I did find that it's now on 32nd Street and Indian School, and so I want to go inside and kind of tell our story to some of the people that work there. Hopefully, they're cool with that, and we'll get their reaction and see what they think about all that. I don't know how many people that they've had come that weren't a couple to take dance lessons, and then after that became a couple. So we'll find out. Okay, so I am coming in. This is the Fred Astaire Dance Studio. Hello.
Hello.
I'm Josh.
Hi, I'm Sammy.
Sammy, nice to meet you. Oh, there she is down there. So I am going around. My wife and I are celebrating our 21st anniversary on May the 13th.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I'm making kind of like a video diary of different places that hold significance for us in our marriage and our time together. My wife and I started out as just friends, and we were in a wedding together with some mutual friends, and they wanted to do a choreographed dance. And so through that experience, we kind of fell in love, basically. And what I'm trying to do is go around to different places, kind of just tell our story so that anybody that watches this, my wife and anybody else that watches this, kind of knows how we came together. And so this, the Fred Astaire Dance Studio back in 1997 was located on 24th Street. This is a different studio, different franchise, but I just wanted to be able to kind of get your reaction and see what you think about that. And then have you guys ever had anybody that's had a similar story that you know of where they weren't a couple, they came to get dance lessons and then became a couple afterwards?
Actually, I have not. This is the very first time. Normally, you know, the couples have started and then came into us afterwards. So that's, I absolutely love the story that you guys came together because of dance.
Yes.
It's awesome.
And she's always been, you know, getting on to me wanting to take dance lessons again. So hopefully in the future that'll be something that we get back to doing. So this was our experience and how we kind of came together. I was wondering, do you mind wishing her a happy anniversary? Her name is Angelique.
Happy anniversary, Angelique. Hopefully you'll come in and we can meet you in person.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye-bye. Welcome back. So now I am in Old Town Scottsdale, outside the Italian Grotto restaurant. This is the site of where Angelique and I had our first date. Funny story, while we're sitting here getting ready to eat, this limo pulled up right over here, and two guys got out and started fighting with some people walking across the street, which was pretty funny. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go inside and talk to the folks and just kind of get their reaction and everything. Another cool story. We parked literally like right here, and the first time I ever held Angelique's hand was right here in this walkway on this sidewalk right here. So I hope she remembers that. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, everyone. So I am outside the Italian Grotto here, and I'm going to come inside real quick and show you guys everything. Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great.
So I hope you. Do you mind if I interrupt you for just one quick moment? So my wife and I had our first date here 21 years ago. I'm kind of like going throughout town to like different significant places from when we were first together. And since this was our first date, I'm stopping here to kind of have, you know, people involved. And I was just, do you mind wishing her a happy anniversary? So it's going to be our 21st anniversary. This was our first date. We sat right over there where those fine folks are sitting. Her name's Angelique. Do you guys mind wishing her a happy anniversary?
Happy 21st.
I got married here 21 years ago. I get this all the time. It's
Thank you
hysterical.
so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you too.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much. So that was the Italian Grotto. We sat right over in this window right here, where these fine people are. Hi, how you doing, people? It was late at night, and they had the partitions open so we could see. And that's when we saw the guys getting in the fight on the street there. So that is the latest location in my video story timeline here. So I'll talk to you guys later. So this is Angelique's home back in 1997, behind me here. This is the house that a few significant things happened where we decided to get married. Literally the night before we went and got married. We were up late and watching movies, and I think in Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes' Romeo and Juliet was on, and was kind of like the spur to action movie that made us think, you know, what if we just got married? And I told Angelique, you know, she had mentioned, you know, it would be, you know, great if we could just do that and just go and do the, you know, make the decision to go and do it and just do it. And I told her, I remember looking at her and I said I would marry you tomorrow. And she didn't believe me. I the way she reacted, there's no way she believed me, because she was just like, come on, you're not serious. And I said, I will marry you tomorrow. And so that's literally what happened. We got married the next day, and right over here on this carport right here, well, this in the driveway here, before we got to the marriage part, that was the first place that I kissed Angelique. It was in this house the first time I told her that I loved her. This is also the house where probably the most embarrassing moment of my life took place. I was off of school. I had class in the morning. Angelique had class that morning before her students were going to arrive, because at the time she taught piano and voice out of a studio here. And before her students were coming and before I had to be at work that night, we had some time together. And no one else was home. Nathan was at work, and Nathan was at school at the time. just up the street, and Bonnie was at work. Bonnie worked for the Scottsdale School District, which was just up the street, probably, not even a mile, like half a mile from here. And what happened was we were thinking, well, we've got some alone time here. I think we want to spend some time together. Again, another one of those PG-13 moments, I suppose, if you're watching. And so we decided to take advantage of the alone time, so to speak. And so, not knowing that while that was going on, that Bonnie was coming home for lunch. Didn't hear her walk in the door. We were in Angelique's room. This is after we're married, by the way. Nobody knows that we're married. So we, don't hear anything. Nobody knows that we're married. Nobody knows. We haven't told anybody yet. This is just a couple days after we had gotten married. And funny enough, I'm still living, in Mesa, and she's still living here. And we haven't decided exactly how to tell people yet. And so Bonnie comes in, literally walks into Angelique's room, opens the door, and we are in a compromising position, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's, I don't even know how else to say it. But I'm naked. And there's not any other kind of embarrassment that you can experience except being naked in front of your mother-in-law. And unfortunately for me, that's actually happened twice. The other story happened several years later, and maybe that if you really want to hear that story and you haven't heard it yet, because Angelique usually tells it to people, so most people that know us have heard that story, because she thinks it's one of her most favorite stories to tell, is the second time I was naked in front of my mother-in-law. So if you need details on that story, I'm sure Angelique will be able to fill you in. But anyways, Bonnie comes in to the room, and I'm mortified. The level of embarrassment that's washing over me at this time is I can't even describe. It was awful. And so she shuts the door calmly, walks out. I'm ready to throw up on the floor. I start getting my clothes on. Angelique goes, gets our wedding certificate, goes in, explains the situation to Bonnie. So that's the most embarrassing time of my life, and it took place right in that house. So I don't know what else to say. So I'm just gonna stop. So I am now standing outside of what is now a psychologist's office. But back in 1997, this was the Mesa Wedding Chapel. So this is actually where it all went down. Back in 1997, this place was equipped with the most beautiful green shag carpet you've ever seen. I remember he had Christmas lights going down what was the aisle of the wedding chapel. There was at the end he had this little music player that after the ceremony was done and I had kissed the bride, he hit it and it played the so it was really funny. One thing that I will share about our time here with the minister Bob Zimmerman, who was the officiant back then. is the people, the two women that signed our marriage certificate as witnesses. It was two ladies, and they just signed the certificate, and then they left. So I've always wondered, is the purpose of having witnesses sign your certificate? Are they witnessing your signature, kind of like a notary type thing, or are they witnessing that are they signing to say that they witnessed you getting married, because they didn't actually see us get married? So maybe after 21 years we're not really married. Maybe Angelique is my common law wife. I don't know. But that's kind of a funny story of our ceremony. That these two ladies, they signed the certificate. Bob walked over, asked them to sign it. They signed it and then took off. The only other person that witnessed our marriage was Mr. Zimmerman. So I don't know. Maybe she's my common law wife. I don't know. But either way, this like I was thinking about going inside, but when I saw it was a psychologist's office, I didn't think that was probably appropriate. So on this one, you're only going to get the outside. So there it is, Mesa Wedding Chapel. So for my next stop, I am at Dobson and Guadalupe. Back in 1997, on this corner, there used to be a Serrano's Mexican food place. Now it is Barbecue House, Korean barbecue. I walked inside to see if I could film, and the owner was not having it. So I'll just kind of set the scene for you. So after getting married at the Mesa Wedding Chapel by Mr. Bob Zimmerman, we were hungry, of course, so we stopped by here to get a bite to eat. And I remember Angelique saying to me, as we looked around while we were waiting for our food, we were just kind of talking about what we had just done and what had just happened. And she just was kind of wondering, how many of these people, what their story is right now, because none of them would have probably thought that we had just literally eloped and gotten married with nobody knowing. So that was just kind of a neat thing to stop and think about. So I wish I could have gone inside and shown you guys a little bit more. I was actually going to ask some people if they knew what this place was 21 years ago, but like I said, the owner, she was not having it. So hopefully we'll get some participation from some people as we go. But if not, it's cool. So that's what this place is. I don't know if the food's any good now, but the food was good then. I think there's still Serrano's around, but I don't think I've been to one since our meal that day. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys in a minute. Hey everyone. So after we got done eating at Serrano's, we decided we wanted to have some. Let me stop right now, because this is probably the PG-13 part of the video. So children at home. My children especially, don't crack any jokes, but send them away. I won't get too detailed here, but we wanted to have some alone time, if you want to say it nicely. So I am at what is now the Dobson Ranch Inn. In 1997, I don't remember if it was still called that. It may have been called that, but I know it was owned by Best Western at the time. So that's where I'm at right now. And you know what? I'm not even going to ask the guy if I can come in and say something. I'm just going to walk in. So you guys will get to experience if he says no, or tells me to get out, or chases me, or something like that. So, so what happened was we got here, and I was a little embarrassed about how this was going to go down, because essentially we weren't going to be staying the night here because I had to get home to study for a college final. So this was going to be basically used as a temporary residence, if you want to say, for husband and wife activities, quote unquote. So I'm gonna go inside now. We'll see what the guy says, or the woman. I don't know who's working in there. We'll see if they like shoo me away or something, but see if I can get their reaction. Hi. So I have a question for you. Okay. I hope you don't mind. This is I'm doing a video, like diary blog for my wife, because it's our 21st anniversary coming up. Okay. We eloped 21 years ago, and we actually stayed here for we went and got married at the Mesa Wedding Chapel, and then we went and got something to eat, and then we came here, but we only stayed for like a couple hours. Right. You know what I mean? Have you guys ever had anybody do something like that you know of? Okay. You know, so I'm like going around town to a bunch of different places to kind of like document like our experience. And thank you. And so I was wondering if you don't mind, do you mind just wishing her a happy 21st anniversary? Is that okay?
What's her name?
Her name is Angelique.
Happy 21st anniversary, Angelique, from us at Dobson Ranch.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You as well.
All right. Well, so she didn't shoo me away, so that went a lot better than I was expecting. At first, I wasn't sure if she was paying attention to me because she seemed really busy, but finally got her attention. But so this was the place, and I could probably, I don't know if I could take you to the exact room, but I could probably take you around. It's kind of down that direction, around the corner. I remember specifically, and I just remember when it came time to check out. That it was kind of funny because we had just checked in, so I think the guy kind of figured out what was happening. So once again, this is the Best Western Desert Ranch Inn, and was one of our brief stops on our day of marriage. Talk to you guys later. Hey, so this is going to be a quick stop. This was actually our first apartment right up there, number 218. We lived there for just over a year, right after we got married, after we had decided to get our own place, after letting everybody know, so we got some money together and got this place. We didn't have much, so we lived here for about a year before we bought our first house, but I just wanted to kind of come back here and point that out. But the one funny story I wanted to tell about this place is right next door is a VFW. That is it's kind of like an Elks Lodge, but it's veterans of foreign wars, and evidently it's one of those places that you can rent out for, weddings or receptions. You can rent it out for quinceañeras. And back when we lived here, people used to rent it out all the time. And there were gang activities. There were gunshots almost every single. It's the funniest thing. I mean, I don't know if what kind of events were going on there, but almost every single weekend when somebody rented that place out, you could expect to hear gunshots. And I remember one time, sometimes I'd go out and I'd stand on the balcony. It was almost like a TV show. Sometimes you could watch people fighting in the background, but it was really an experience. But I just wanted to tell that little story. I just thought it was kind of funny. Thought you guys might enjoy it. So, first apartment complex, there it is. Talk to you later. So now I am at our first house. So here we lived from 1998 to June of 2007 in this house right here. Hopefully you can hear me. This guy's mowing the lawn, so I'm actually gonna walk away. So you guys see him back there? So inconsiderate. But I'm going to come over here so you guys can hear me a little bit better. But we lived here from 1998 to 2007, and we had all three of our kids here, and we just had a lot of great memories here. I wasn't sure if I was of what story to kind of tell about this location, but I did want to say one funny thing. That we had gotten home from church one Sunday, and I think I had a Cardinals game on, and every Sunday after church, after we'd had lunch, Angelique would always go up and take a nap because having led praise and worship that day, she was usually really exhausted, and so she went upstairs to take a nap. I still got my church clothes on, so I'm just sitting on the couch watching the Cardinals game, and all of a sudden I get a knock at the door, and I'm like, okay, most people usually, we don't get a lot of people, that come to the front, because most people that knew us came through the back, and just knocked on the back door, and so I was like, no big deal. So I go and I open up the door, and sitting, oh dude, come on, really? You're gonna come over here right now? Really? Come on. All right, I'll try and stay on topic here. So what had happened was I opened up the door, and no joke, there's probably 6 or 7 heavily armed police officers. They've got like the helmets on, they've got like the I don't know if they're AR-15s or whatever it is that the police are issued, high capacity rifles, right? And they've got the bulletproof vests. Some of them got the riot looking shields, right? And they're literally guns drawn as I open up the door. And here I am in like dress pants and dress shirt, tie. May have taken the tie off, I don't know. But you get the picture, right? So they ask who I am. They ask if I'm the owner of a Nissan truck, which I tell them I am. And come to find out, somebody on the far west side of town had just robbed a bank, and evidently they were seen fleeing in a white Nissan pickup with the exact same license plate that I had on my truck. And what they thought was that I had robbed the bank and driven all the way over here and come home. And so, I assure them, I just came from church, I just had lunch. They see how I'm dressed. They go outside, they feel the hood of my car and feel that it's cool, it's not been running. And evidently someone had used my, I don't know if they stole my, I don't know if I had like a front license plate at the time. I don't remember what it was, but they had a license plate with the exact same number as mine on a white Nissan pickup. So needless to say, that was probably the most unexpected visitor to my house while we were here. But we really enjoyed living here. It was our first house together as a couple. We redecorated it, started our family here, had a lot of great memories here. So funny story and good times here. So that's it. Thanks. Okay, so for my last video, I'm actually outside of the emergency room at Scottsdale North, the Shea campus. And those of you that are watching this are probably wondering, well, why would he be sitting outside of an emergency room? So the reason why I wanted to include this was because this is the location of the place where I probably the most scared in my entire life. So for those of you that know our story about wanting to start a family, Angelique and I had tried really starting to try and have kids about a year after we were married, a year and a half. And, we really thought it would be an easy process. We didn't have any idea of the pain and struggle it was going to be for 6 years before we would be blessed with a child. And we went to different doctors to see what was preventing us from having kids, and we kind of figured out what was going on after we visited the doctor. And so there were different procedures that had to take place for us to be able to start our family. The first doctor that we went to had put Angelique on some medication that had caused her to develop some very problematic cysts, which had erupted before, but she was, the doctors were able to stop the bleeding. And thankfully, there were no problems from that specific instance. Once she finally became pregnant, and we learned that we were going to have twins, we were ecstatic. But Angelique had another instance where she had a cyst erupt inside of her ovary that caused it to fill up with blood to the size of a Nerf football. And evidently, an ovary is typically about the size of an eyeball. So for it to get that big, it was very serious. By the time we had first taken her to one hospital, I called her doctor and explained to them what was going on, and let them know that they weren't doing anything to really help the situation. Her doctor had her transferred over to Scottsdale, and I think the doctor had said had she gone maybe another 30 minutes or so, she probably would have gone into irreversible shock. And so knowing, what was going on, and that she could die essentially was very, it was just a very scary situation. Knowing that she was about 10 weeks pregnant at the time with twins, it was just very emotional. And I remember the doctors coming in, and I had to sign a release that basically said that if in the process of removing her ovary, that the pregnancy had to be terminated, I had to sign a release saying that I would allow that to happen to save Angelique's life. And it really wasn't until that moment that I broke down. I mean, I literally while I'm signing my name to this release, detailing that, you know, if that was to happen, that they could terminate the pregnancy, I just started crying. I was literally like weeping onto this release form as I signed my name, and it just really hit me in that moment. After several hours of surgery, the doctor came out and he explained that he had removed the ovary, and that Angelique was in recovery. After the surgery, both babies had come through the pregnancy. One of the baby's heartbeats was weaker than the other, and for the next couple weeks, Angelique had to go in to the doctor's office every other day, pretty much, to have an ultrasound done to check on the progress of the pregnancy, if the babies were developing, and see, you know, what other complications might arise from that. So after a little bit, I don't remember exactly how much time after her surgery, we went in and we learned that one of the baby's hearts had stopped beating, and that that the baby wasn't going to make it. The other baby was still going strong. So knowing that we had lost one of the twins, it really impacted us greatly, of course. But at the same time, it was one of those things where we really had to focus on making sure that Angelique was getting enough rest to ensure that the other baby was going to make it. Again, she had to keep going, I think, for the entire first trimester and a half, maybe it might have been. She had to go in again, like I said, every other day to get tested, and the baby came through it. And every time we'd go in to have a new ultrasound done, we would see these long legs of this baby that were always measuring longer than the rest of her body, because, you know, she would be at, 13, 14, 15 weeks or whatever. I don't remember exactly. I don't know when you can start seeing, legs and all that stuff. It may be farther along and I just made that up. I don't know. But whenever we would go in, her legs always measured a week or two ahead of everything else. And so those of you that know Avon now, who's just turned 15 a couple months ago, those of you that know her know that she's all legs, been a gymnast for the past 6-7 years, and she was the baby that survived. So the reason why I say this is the place where I was most scared, but also a place that brought me tremendous joy, is she was born here, and little over 2 years later, we had a surprise child come that was a wonderful Father's Day gift, born in June, right around Father's Day, right before my birthday, as when McHayden came along. And then about a year and a half later, we couldn't figure out why McHayden wasn't really growing. She was actually I shouldn't say a year and a half later, because a year and a half later is when Samuel was actually born. But about 7-8 months into McHayden's life, she just wasn't growing. She was losing weight. We couldn't figure out what was going on. They checked her for all sorts of things. They checked her for leukemia. We didn't know what was going on. And it turns out that Angelique was pregnant, and when she was nursing McCaden, she didn't have enough nutrients because it was all going to Samuel because we didn't know she was pregnant. And so I remember finding out that Angelique was pregnant with Samuel. I literally, and she will tell you this, I literally fell back on the bed. Like I just like sprawled, like spread eagle on the bed. I was just like, I was so dumbfounded because, we weren't supposed to be able to have children by ourselves. And here we had McCaden come along, when we didn't think it was possible. And she was a great, wonderful, beautiful addition to our lives. And then, once we figured out that, hey, we can have kids on our own without the help of science and doctors, we decided to take some precautions to ensure that the next time we did have a child, it would be a little bit more planned. And you know what, God had a different outlook on that and said, you know what, you guys are trying to prevent having a baby? Well, ha 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 ha, here comes another one. So we had 3 children, beautiful, wonderful children within a 3.5 year span. Samuel came along in December, and so he was the Christmas present for both of us. And having three kids in a span of 3.5 years was probably not what we were anticipating doing, and me sprawling out on the bed is probably an indication of that, but we wouldn't change anything for the world. And this is my final stop here for my little video journey here. So for all of you that have taken the time to watch this, I thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. To my wife of 21 years, I love you more than anything. I don't even know the right words to say. I know a lot of times people say how proud they are to be married. Pride doesn't even begin to express what I feel knowing that I'm your husband. So I love you. These last 21 years have been amazing, and I hope that we're married for 100 more years. Not likely, but however long. I love you, and I hope you enjoyed this.